No.
Brilliant. Thank you guys very much. Armando, thank you for the rules. Salandile, what a beautiful introduction. I think it is impossible to make Jean-Marie Drew nervous, but if you could, that one might have gotten him a little bit there. But thank you, and thank you for all of TBWA for being here. We know this is a very anticipated session of Disruptor Die Academy. The focus today is what we are calling Jean-Marie Drew Unfiltered, which is we are going to ask Jean-Marie Drew some of the questions that we may or may not know the answers to, the backstories, the origin stories, and some of his more personal experiences that exist around why disruption is so critical and important to us and where it's come from. So we've got a pretty jam-packed session, 10 pretty juicy questions. So we will not waste another minute and we will jump right in. Okay, so Jean-Marie, take us back. I want to go to the very beginning, the moment when disruption was born. You know, I think we've heard quite a bit about, both in your talks and your books, some of the early days, but I'm really curious when disruption for you was actually born as an idea. Was it, you know, flash of genius, collaboration? Was it revenge, failure, something else? We'd love to hear that story to start us off.
Okay, thank you. Well, it was nothing like that. Okay. You know? It's a long story, so I'm going to try to make it short. You know, the word disruption appeared in my life in a meeting I had in New York with the research director of my agency back in 1991. So that's 7 years before my company has been merged with TBWA, 7 years before. And I say my agency because it's not only an agency we had in Paris, but we had already started to build a small network, you know, and we had agencies in 15 countries, including the US. That's why I was in the US with that guy. His name was Richard Cohen. And that day he asked me the following question. He said, Jean-Marie, what do we stand for as a network? And I said, you know, Richard, I don't know, but I can tell you what we stand for in Paris. And at that time, I have to say, we were very successful, we were going very fast. And what we did in Paris at that time, we would go and see some big companies, and we would tell them, why don't you give us your brand, which is in very bad shape? And that worked, you know, quite often. So because these brands were in very bad shape, we had to come with bold strategies, you know, with this very intrusive advertising or very, you know, highly creative campaigns. And after 3 years of that, we said we wanted to define what we were doing. So in French, we said our agency is about stratégie de rupture, which means in English, strategies, which if you translate it directly in English is strategy of rupture. And Richard Cohen told me, obviously, this is, you know, that doesn't work in English. So I said to him, okay, do you have a word? And when he said, maybe disruption, but he didn't like it. He was very reluctant because he said it has so many negative connotations, so I'm not sure, he said. But then I adopted it, you know. And as you know, we register the word. So for the people who are listening to us today, it's kind of strange. How can you register a common noun like that, you know? But you have to understand, it's difficult to understand, that at that time, the word was not used at all, even in America, not in the business world. The first guy who used the word disruption after us was Christensen in Harvard, you know, but 7 years later. You know, and so it was not used at all in the business world and not very much in the daily life, you know, just people would talk of a disruption for a flood or for an earthquake and so on and so on. But, you know, so that's why we've been able to have a trademark in 25 countries. And then very fast, I don't know, 2 weeks later, we came with a roadmap, you know, convention, disruption, vision. And we had the idea of testing our new thing with a client. So we met the CMO of Chase Manhattan Bank, who's a client of ours at the time, and we presented, and I remember exactly what he said. He said, this is excellent. This is exactly what we need. But please, don't use the word disruption. It's terrible. Right. That's what he said.
Okay, so outside of everybody that clearly hated the name Disruption, both rich, who seemed to both help you and detract from you. Did anyone else ever try to shut you down? I mean, obviously Disruption's been so successful. Was there ever anyone around
No,
you that tried to shut you down?
no. To shut down disruption, yes. Because to make another story short, I mean, I became CEO at the end of 2000. So we merged in '98. So somebody else was the CEO of TBWA during these 3 years, and that person didn't like disruption at all. So he killed it.
Right.
So so it just vanished. Just like that.
Let's talk a little bit about, because this is, I think, a particularly relevant story right now for us. You merged Disruption into TBWA. For anyone that doesn't know, TBWA bought your company, the one that you've just been describing, and you really imported Disruption into it, and obviously it has become the thing. We are TBWA, the Disruption company.
Yeah.
Tell us how you did that. I suspect that probably wasn't the easiest thing you did.
I've been a little lucky on this one.
Yeah.
Because when I became CEO, you have to understand, TBWA was disruption was totally unknown inside TBWA. Right. And I was CEO, and I said to myself, it's impossible to come and say, hey guys, I'm bringing back my old method, and you're going to have to use it. It was impossible. So I thought it was gone, really. Right. And then I went to South Africa to see my friend John Hunt and Reg Lascaris. And I was doing my job of CEO, spending a day looking at the accounts, the clients, the creative, the finance, and everything. And the meeting ended about 6 p.m. I remember as if it was yesterday. And I said to John Hunt, John, don't you have anything else to show me? He said, no. Oh yes, maybe. I'm going to check if she's still there. Here. And he took his phone and he called a lady, head of planning in South Africa. She's a great person. And she's called Mary Jamieson. And she came down and they presented to me the disruption days. Oh, wow. They had invented the disruption days, and they were using them for a year in new business with a client. And they had invented many exercises and tools. And I was amazed, And I had a good idea, honestly. That was in February or March. So I said to John, would you come with Mary Jamieson, both of you at Cannes, and present that thing to the creative directors from all over the world? And, the content was very good, but on top of it, both of them are fantastic presenters.
Yeah, they are.
And everything John Hunt would say, all the creative would agree with.
Goodbye, yeah.
So the story is that all the creative guys say, we want that. Yeah. And that's the way it happened. And that's the way disruption came into our company, thanks to all the creative guys.
So John Hunt's endorsement really helps us out. Okay,
absolutely.
I buy that. That's a good lesson for us all still. Yeah. What about, we've certainly talked about some of the people around you, maybe doubted the word or doubted disruption. Did you ever doubt it? Yes, obviously, at the beginning. But, progressively, years passing by, we've done so many disruption days, thousands of them, and it's a fact that most of the time they're always productive. So because of that, but the thing I could say, which is interesting, is that when you think of all the other agencies, many of them have been trying to have a methodology or a thing like that. It could be the USP, the creative work plan, the love marks, all that stuff, and it never lasted more than 6, 7, 10 years. And disruption has been here, on the contrary, disruption has been here with us for more than 30 years, so it's very solid, I would say. Right. So I don't doubt at all. Yeah, I'm with you. We have time and distance on our side, and it has never failed us when we have used it right. So I'm in the same spot as you. Okay, let's talk about disruption and who it belongs to and how we use it. Obviously, we say disruption belongs to everyone in the collective, but especially as a methodology, I mean, it is really a strategy thing. It is a planning thing. I think one of the things that through every conversation I've ever had with you, through every talk I've ever heard from you, you talk about strategy's role in creativity, that every brief should be a creative act, that strategy needs to be creative before the creative process really starts. So I think that is a lesson that I would love everyone else to hear as well. Can you explain that? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. Then I have to tell you another story.
I hate that. I think that is what we are here for, my guy. Go
Okay,
ahead,
but,
please.
yeah, I always believe that, you have to be creative before,
Yes.
our creative friends are working. And how could I say that? I owe that opinion to my first boss. I was working for, I don't know, for 2 months, and I asked him, his name was Alan. I said, Alan, what's my job really? And I thought he would talk about, he would say, controlling the timelines and the cost of every job. And no, he said to me, most important part of your job is to do great briefs, because great briefs make money. So that did some explanation, but it was very simple. He said, if you have a lousy brief, people will have to redo it, to rework, and you're going to lose time. So it's decrease the productivity of the agency. And to say it positively, he said, if you have a great campaign, beautiful campaign, right, it's going to last 2, 3, or 4 years. So we will have less work to do, and we're going to make more money. So that guy, I was in the business for 3, 4 weeks. That guy put in my mind that there was a direct relationship between the quality of the brief on one side and the bottom line on the other side. And he has set, the path I followed for 50 years. You see, I've always believed, it's very important. That was 20 years before disruption. I always believed that you have to have something in the brief. It could be a vision, a new perspective, a new angle, an insight, even the seed of an idea. But I would insist on something. At the briefing moment, you have to be a little thrilled. You have to be impatient to know what the creative guys will do with what you bought them. And this is very important. You have to have some excitement. If not, it's not a good brief.
Yeah. Impatience and excitement, I think, are two amazing. Yeah, if you don't believe in it, and if you are not relentless about seeing where it'll get to, I think I could not agree more. What about the idea of templates and formats? I know that you are actually a big rejecter of formats and templates, and a lot of that came also from your experience, I think, with your creative partner, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think this is a common, maybe a bit of a misperception about disruption sometimes, that it is a template or a formula, and it's not.
No. Well, it's a funny thing, because I don't really like methodologies, In the early years of my company in Paris, we had deliberately decided not to have any fixed briefing format, because the brief is an act of creation. The planners could do whatever they want, And to come back to your question, my creative partner was entitled to say to refuse a brief with no other reason that I don't feel it, And that you have to know that was some of our best years creatively. But then, what I said at the beginning, we started a network. So my partners were coming to my office every day and say, we need something, we need a language, we need something that's going to unite all the agency. So because I don't like methodology so much, I try modestly, but I try to create something very open with nothing really mandatory, that you can play the way you want, you see. So it's a paradox. It's a fact, I don't like methodologies, and I used to say at that time, because I used to say, it's a system for people who don't like systems. And John Hunt added, that's why it works.
Yeah. Right. Okay, well, let's stay on this thread then around common misperceptions, misunderstandings that people have. I mean, this is, as we've said, this session of Disruptor Die Academy is called Jean-Marie Drew Unfiltered. So I'm hoping to get your very unfiltered and honest take about where you see misunderstandings, misperceptions, myths about disruption.
Well, there is the first one. You already talked about it 5 minutes ago. The first one is some people believe that it's complex, that it's not simple. And I can understand that. If you're a newcomer to the agency and And you see all these tools, all these exercises, and on top of it, books have been written about it. Okay, so it could look overwhelming, but at the day, it's not, because the foundation of disruption is so obvious. In the daily life, if you want to come with a new idea, usually you step away from what's been done before and you try to have an idea where you want to go. So there is nothing at all revolutionary. It's just how we do it that makes the whole difference. And when we are lucky enough, when disruption works, at the end of the day, we can, how could you say that? We can, say in a few words the one stand for. In a few words. So at the end of the day, the end result of all that we bring clarity and simplicity in the marketing world and for our clients, you see. So that's it. I understand that some people could think it's complex. I think we're going to come back to that maybe later, but it's simple.
I think that's right. I think exactly.
That's why I told you at the beginning that
That's
I was
right.
against methodologies, so people understand where it's coming from. It's coming from somebody who's really afraid of anything that's going to be a constraint,
Right. That's right. So the last session that we did, the very first one, defining disruption,
Yes.
Natalie and I talked about this being sort of the era of the disruptor,
Yeah.
which I think goes really well with that idea of disruption being actually radically, ruthlessly simple. The books, the talks, those all come from application.
Yes.
And what happens when you use a very simple concept against tons of different brands, different briefs, and different opportunities. So I love that.
Yeah.
What else? Are there any other myths or misperceptions? Which one bothers you? Others that really bother you?
Well, I remember his name was Nick Barham. He was head of planning in your office in LA 10 years ago, and he was not that really comfortable with disruption. Then he came to Paris, we had a discussion, and then he came back and he said, well, now I'm fine, I understand, it's not logical. So it's a fact that some people believe it's very logical, very rational, and it's not at all the way it is. It's not linear, it's not gradual, it's not incremental, and this is very important to understand, because to come with to find a good, to design a good roadmap, you need imagination and intuition. I often say something that I really believe. Deduction alone creates nothing. So you have to have a leap. That's why for me, disruption is an act of invention, if you want. It's not logical. Imagination, intuition.
Yeah. I remember Nick joining LA.
Yeah.
Hating disruption,
Yes.
coming back after
Yes.
seeing you and was like, he didn't quite say he was wrong, but he believed it after that. So, okay, so wait, let me talk about one thing that you just mentioned. I heard you talk about a leap. We actually had the delight of having you in LA fairly recently to talk to the strategist in the agency. In that meeting, you mentioned to us the idea of a double leap.
Yes.
Tell me, can you explain that? Tell us about that.
Well, it's a very simple thing, to have something good or strong, you need two things. You need a strategic leap, which is disruption, and you need a creative leap, which is the job of our creative friends, because it's important to understand that if the advertising at the end of the day is a mere transcription of the vision, that's not enough. You have to have an idea to bring that vision to life, and this is very important. You have to, that double leap. And I could give you an example to make it clear. If you remember what we've done some years ago for Airbnb, we had that, vision of belong anywhere, you remember. But that was not what we said in the advertising. We had that beautiful campaign when the theme was "Don't go there, live there." And you would see in that commercial, people in Paris, by the way, and maybe they would go to the Eiffel Tower, but that was not the important point. They were living there. They were going to the grocery, to the bakery, to the yoga, to the cinema. It was a beautiful commercial. Okay, so again, it was a leap. So we always need that double leap. Strategic leap, which is disruption, and the creative leap, which is thanks to the the talent of our creative people.
I think that double leap is where you get the sense of the real magic.
Yeah.
It's not executing a brief.
Yeah.
It's taking it, adding a totally new dimension.
Yeah, I can even tell you something. It took me 20 years to understand what I'm going to tell you, but when you see a campaign and you want to have an idea, I mean, first your intuition tells you if it's good or not, but if you want to make it a little more, an idea a little more seriously thinking about it, that double leap, thanks to that double leap, I had a new way of evaluating a campaign, and so first you need to have a good brief, a good roadmap, whatever. And if you have that, then to know if you have a good campaign, you have got two questions. The first one is, could the creative people could have done that campaign, when you see it, could have done that campaign without the brief?
Right.
With the answer is yes, maybe it's a good campaign, but the content is not big enough or large enough. And then the second question, the same one the other way around, is the creative I see only the brief? And the answer is yes, it's not enough, and your campaign will not be strong enough executionally, if you want. So it's a good way of thinking. The work should be on the brief. The work should be on brief,
Yeah.
but it should not be only the brief.
It shouldn't be the brief. I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, love that. One of the reasons why we are calling this Disrupt or Die Academy is that Disrupt or Die was actually the sort of 2025 rally cry from Aaron, our CEO this year.
Yeah.
And it is all about making sure that disruption is sort of at the heart of everything we do.
Yeah.
The creative product, the strategic product, the experience, everything. We were talking about how disruption has so much time and distance on it. Why do you think disruption refuses to die? Because I think there have been so many moments where it would have been very easy to not use the D word, to not continue to do it. But it obviously continues to serve us brilliantly. Why do you think it refuses to die, and why shouldn't it?
We've already discussed that. I think it refuses to die, as you say, because it's very simple. Or put it the other way around, the best way to kill it again is to overthink about it or to make it complicated. So we have to resist, relentlessly resist to make it complicated. But to come back to what we said about the other agencies, 10 minutes ago, one of the reasons why their methodology or whatever you call it died is because people were not using them well enough. I was in Y&R in the early times, and we had the creative work plan or whatever, key fact, whatever, problem solving. And I could see all these guys. They would fill it like a form, tuck, 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 tuck. I've done all that. And at the end, it's dull, and it's the same for us, And the reason why, I think disruption is resisting working is because people don't do that. You see, it's not a form.
It's not a form? Well, okay. Well, then let's invite you to give us a little bit of feedback as well. One of the things I have observed, one of the things you and I have talked about, is that disruption as an idea and a word is sometimes misused.
Yes.
I would love you to tell us, where have you seen us get it wrong?
Many times.
I bet there might be a few. You can
no.
just not the
Not
times
many
I've done
times.
it,
No,
just
but
everyone else.
Just stupid answer. But no. Come on. But I got two. First, there is something obvious on the word. People very often say this is a very disruptive campaign and so on. Oh, you have to be careful. You should not, disruptive and creative. You can have a highly creative campaign, but it's not always disruptive. So we should not mix up disruptive and creative. That's a small point. What I see quite often, by the way, is that too often the vision and the disruption are too close in a way they are other, but that's not. What else? An important one. Some people believe, because that we need something radical on each one of the three components, on the convention, disruption, the vision. But not everything. It's not necessary. Not everything has to be disruptive. You need one of them to be disruptive, and then the other one they have to flow naturally in it. You see. What else? The most important one. You asked me the question.
I did. I say, don't hold back. We can take it.
No. You asked me the question some time ago. You say, should the roadmap be in every brief? Should the roadmap be in every brief? The answer is no. Okay. The answer is no. Let's take for instance, two activations that we've done recently. You know, the 30-second TikTok, the 30 minutes, sorry, TikTok video. Okay. Or the thing I've done in Japan recently with the No Smile campaign for McDonald's,
yes.
you know, when we have that young singer who sings a song to explain why from now on the crew members of McDonald's are not required to smile anymore. Okay, those are two fantastic activations. Do you think a roadmap inspires that? No way. If you want, we can still, if you want, retrofit a roadmap after on that. But by the way, I forgot to say that. You can retrofit a lot. I've spent my life retrofitting. No, seriously.
Yes.
But on this one, it would be stupid. It would be meaningless. So that means what? That you have to use, this is really important. You have to use the disruption roadmap in two very distinct ways. The first one as a brief, when you want to do a new campaign, a new big, large brand campaign. Yeah. So it's enough as a brief if you want to do that. Yeah. But for everything else, a small brief, an activation or anything, no, you should not use it. You should have it on the table here, but it's not the core thing, And then you use it in two different ways, as a filter and as a source of inspiration. As a filter, because you can have many ideas, but maybe a great one is not really in line with the roadmap that you have on the side. So maybe you should not keep it. And as a source of inspiration, because if you work on a brief and an activation, and you have that, sometimes great visions can inspire, can trigger your imagination. But again, the answer to the question, should it be in every brief? The answer is no.
Yeah, very good. I think what you say about using, this is an opinion of mine, you can tell me if I get it right or not, but one of the things I really love about using the roadmap for inspiration, you talked about Airbnb as an example.
Yeah.
The vision of belong anywhere. The
Yes.
convention for that brand was that people traveled like tourists.
Yes?
You could hold that convention and then break it into hundreds of small conventions. People going to a city and only seeing the tourist attractions, going to museums when they would never go to a museum. That god-awful bit of language when people say, I'm going to do Paris. You're like, oh, do not do Paris. But what's wonderful about that is that that's where you can find so many conventions and one convention from the roadmap.
Yes.
And all of your activations can pursue those in lots of different ways. So I love that.
Yeah.
Well, you are, sometimes people will call you the godfather of disruption. It's not true. You are the father of disruption. And so I think you've also given me quite a bit of counsel and advice, a bit in a fatherly way, which I've always appreciated.
Thank you.
So maybe I have to ask you this question. We were talking about the times we've gotten it wrong with disruption. What would disappoint you if we did or didn't do something around it? If there's anything you could imagine that we might do around disruption that would bum you out, as I would say in LA, but disappoint you, maybe better.
Well, I'd like to come back to the most important thing, simple. So I would be disappointed, again, if people would think it's complicated. But then I have something to coming back to what we say now. We talk about the tools and the templates and all these things. And so, it's a lot, okay? So we have to be very clear. You got this roadmap, which is very simple, and yet you got all the other stuff. I'll tell you a story. 20 years ago here, we had a thing called, and I think you have a copy in your office, we had a thing called the disruption roadmap.
No, the roadmap.
Roadmap.
Oh, the cookbook. The cookbook,
sorry,
yes. Yeah. Big.
Sorry, thank you. So you had 200 pages.
Yeah.
So, that's complicated. No, because people have to understand the way we use these things. You have an idea, you've been working on the brand, you have an idea where you want to go, you start to feel something, and then you take the cookbook and you flip to it. And then at one moment, for whatever reason, with your intuition, one is interesting for that case. And it would be another one for another case. So again, nothing is mandatory. All that stuff are here to help you to fuel your imagination. But again, you have the disruption roadmap, very simple, and you could have 1,000 pages of tools. That doesn't mean that disruption is complicated. So really, I'm coming back to what I just said, maybe more. And the other thing, obviously, I would be very disappointed if people would come with weak roadmaps.
Yes.
You know, no, and seriously, you know, we talked about the reason why some other guys had to forget about their methodology. But the same for us, you know, it's not enough to have something which looks valid.
Yeah.
You know, it has to be uplifting. Because if at the end of the day, disruption leads to dull advertising, then it's pointless.
Yeah. I am also disappointed when there are weak roadmaps, so I share that with you because I think that is oftentimes a feeling of someone filling in the box.
Yeah. That's
We put some. We
that's the
put something
expression I
there.
was looking for half an hour.
Yeah,
In the
okay.
book. Thank you.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Let me talk about actually a moment that just almost terrified me a little bit, but it ended up being okay. So, you and I had met before, but probably the moment where we started spending a bit more time together was starting from the management meeting in Dublin. I think it was, I don't know, I'm a month or two into this
Yes.
role, coming up from LA and taking on the global job. And I was to present an evolution on disruption.
Yes.
When I arrived that day, I thought, holy shit, Jean-Marie Drew is sitting in the front row, and I forgot I probably should have called him first before I did this, but you know, here we go. Let's see what happens.
Yes.
This was the evolution of fighting with, against, and for disruption, a real simplification to reduce the complexity. One of the most meaningful moments in my career was actually you coming up to me after that presentation and telling me you loved it, and telling me that you approved of it, and telling me that it was right. It was meaningful for me for a million reasons. I've been a student of disruption for a very long time, and certainly yours. But maybe this is a good moment to tell people why you had that reaction, why that evolution to fighting against, with, and for felt right to you.
Well, yeah, I had that reaction. You know, we have too many definitions of disruption, and by the way, we've discussed that this morning. You know, you have to select the one that's going to be the official one.
Yeah.
So we had many. For instance, I was using very often the following. I used to say, disruption is the idea that accelerates the journey between a convention you want to challenge and the vision you want to embrace. Okay, good or not, you will have a better one. But, you know, we've been struggling, not struggling, but, you know, we are not serious enough, so we have many definitions in the network, in the collective. And so then here you are, and you said, and I'm going to repeat exactly what you said, convention is what we are fighting against, vision is what we are fighting for, and disruption is what we are fighting with. And yeah, I was sure, you know, I mean, I could not believe it. It was so smart, so sharp, so inventive. No, seriously, I mean, come on. It was, no, okay. And no, absolutely. It was like an epiphany, you know, no, seriously. And so that's why I told you that after. And in a nutshell, you know, it's not a definition, by the way. It's an observation about, but it's a key thing, because when you read that for the first time, then you understand. So you made disruption finally clear to everyone, I would say.
We're working on it. We're getting better. We're getting better all the time. Well, I mean, this is where I think part of what we have both resisted but had to lean into at times is evolving disruption for the moment or the client or the state. This might be a good moment to hear how even your own understanding of disruption has really evolved or changed since you know, inventing it.
Listen, progressively, we understood that disruption was valid not only for communication or for advertising, but also for marketing, for, you know, for business models, for whatever. And I remember, you know, a long time ago, I made a presentation. You had 4 circles: the business model, the products and the services, the marketing, and the advertising. Okay, and at that presentation, I was showing how you can disrupt at any level. Okay, but it's a fact, you can disrupt at any level. So, you know, that presentation was long, so I will not do it again here. But I will talk about maybe one example that it's not only about communication, but so one day in LA again, we came close to the center of the circles. We had a disruption day on Sony PlayStation, which is a client of ours at that time, and that disruption day was organized by the lady who was CEO of LA at that time, Carissa Bianchi, and she was a fantastic planner. So we had that session, and before I'm telling you what happened, you have to understand something. At that time, the video games are very basic. The graphics are not good. It was a small industry. It's tough to understand today, to hear that, but it was only 1/3 of, for instance, the film industry. And today it's 10 times more than the film industry. So you have to understand the story. And then, in the middle of the meeting, Carissa reframed the competitive set of Sony PlayStation. And she said, you know, guys, your competition is not really Nintendo or the Xbox. Your competition is Hollywood. We had some Japanese guys and some American guys in the rooms. They were very surprised. And then she explained, And we spent the end of the day trying to think about the consequences of that. And later on, they started to build their video games as trying to do the same way as you do blockbusters in Hollywood. And the advertising is done like trailers, you see. So we did create a big thing that day for that company. So to come back, so we were close to the center, okay. And but it's funny because Jill in LA,
Yes.
when we had a session last week, she asked the people before the session to read again or to read for the first time the book Disruption, called Disruption. So for the first time in 20 years, I reread the book.
In 20 years?
Oh, yeah, come on, I mean,
Okay.
People don't like so much to read the book because you see there is a lot of wrong things in that book. That's a different story.
Later.
So, and then I realized that on the first page, I wrote something, that as if we've discovered very fast that disruption was not only good for advertising, but it turned out to be good for business in general. Okay, so that was, in the first years. Okay, what's interesting, I think it's a funny story, is that in the book, in fact, I said that in the introduction, but in the book, 95% is on advertising. So there was a guy called Rod Wright here. I gave him the manuscript before publishing the book. He says, well, you can't publish that. I said, why? Because it's only advertising. You should be on business as well. So I said, you're right, Rod. You know what? I don't know how to do that. So we published the book. That's the way it happened. Yeah.
When you talk about those concentric circles, kind of going further and out, you remind me again of the cookbook, because the Disruption Cookbook mentions that.
Yes.
For anyone that does not know, the Disruption Cookbook is available on Knowledge. So if you would like to have a look at it, it is. Yes. I know that you were just finding out about Knowledge for the first time here a moment ago, but it's a gorgeous place.
I knew about it. Come on.
All right. But it's wonderful. So please go and look at the cookbook. And what Jean-Marie Drew said, flip it open, find a page, look at that idea of the concentric circles of what disruption can influence. It's wonderful, and it's a real game changer. What I love about the story of Carissa, I was only able to work with her for a very short amount of time, but she was very bold, and she was brave. She never hesitated to just say the thing.
Yes.
So I think part of what disruption requires of all of us, you talked about simplicity, imagination.
Yes.
I think it also takes boldness and bravery. I think you've really got to be afraid to do something that's not linear, that is unconventional. So I'd like to know from you, what's the bravest act of disruption you've seen? Either someone else's or maybe you have one.
You told me before that you wouldn't ask me that question. You told me before, as you know. So I've been thinking. So that one I could. So I've been thinking a lot and I'm afraid to say that for me the one I would select is not coming from us, but it's coming from Ogilvy.
Okay, make us jealous.
I'm talking about Dove. The Real Beauty campaign. If you remember, we are back, I think, 2014 or 15, I don't know. And the first thing we've seen was that huge billboard with 6 ladies in underwears, looking straight at the camera, They were not models. They are, real women with real bodies, real wrinkles, no retouching. And what Dove meant at the time is that there is a beauty in every woman. So it's a simple truth. But it was kind of revolutionary because there was a study made at that time where 4% only of women described themselves as being beautiful. So it's a great campaign. And then it evolved into a movement, a statement about self-confidence. And everything done after was trying to give more confidence to the women of this world. And by the way, in the first 3 years, the sales of Dove moved from 2 to 4 billion in 3 years. So, great idea. Now, Dove, but I have to give you one from us.
At least one from us.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So again, I've been thinking about it, and I think Pedigree. When Pedigree came to us, we told them, hey, listen, you are a big brand leader, so you should own the category. And the way to do that for us is that you would move, that's the way we put it at the time, that we move from being, how do you say that, dog food company to a dog lovers company. So we made a lot of commercials, celebrating the love between people and their dogs. And there are beautiful films on dogs. And we created that thing that I was so proud of, which is the dog adoption drive, during 5 or 6 years, and thousands of dogs had been adopted. So it was really very emotional. But what's interesting on this case is that when you have a strong disruption, it goes far beyond advertising. And you won't believe what I'm going to tell you now. You will not believe. Here's what happened. Just like that, people working on Pedigree would put a photo of their dog on their business card. The reps, people going to Walmart or to Target, they would go with their dogs. It was incredible.
That's amazing.
And you know what? Something incredible. In Japan, dogs were not allowed in the premises of a Pedigree, in the building. So management decided to move. So that's commitment. Okay?
I love that.
Yeah, but and what's even more interesting is that, not more interesting, but whatever the reason, let's say the reasons were for global alignment, the brand decided to move to another agency 5 years later. So we're not in charge of Pedigree anymore, but we are 20 years after, and they still have exactly the same platform. They didn't touch it. We are for dog lovers. That's it. So the thing which is important to underline with these two cases, if you want, is that we say that very often, but it's a very important thing that when disruption is really good, happens one of these rare moments when you have a before and an after in the life of a brand. This is what Dove did. This is what Pedigree did. And this is what we have to do every day.
The last time you told that story, I was actually sitting next to Pedro, again, the new CCO in LA, and he leaned over to me and he said, Chiat did the dog adoption drive, not BBDO?
Yeah,
which is amazing, because I think you're right. It has been so long running and so successful and so transformative for them.
Yeah. But it was easy to do, you know what?
Yeah.
Because it was done by Litlau, and Litlau loves dogs so much that it was easy for him.
Yeah, that's right, 100%. Oh, okay. Well, let's come to today. I think one of the things. Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
But let's. We can do it. Is maybe what I should actually say. I would love to talk a little bit about what we're facing today, and maybe even more specifically, what are the challenges that you are seeing that disruption has to face and deal with today?
Well, I mean, there are, I guess, many, but there's one which is very important, short term.
Right.
Many people believe, and I can understand why, that the short-term era, in which we are living is an impediment to disruption. And you can understand that because everything is going so fast So people are more interested in in a small brand activation than in a big brand vision. They are more interested to do something that you can do. They are more interested, in short term. Okay? But at the end of the day, unexpectedly, or really paradoxically, I don't know, I believe, I didn't think of that, not only, it's new to me, but I believe that the short era we're living in can favor disruption. Why? Because you can test. It's going to be easier for you to convince a client. It's going to be more palatable, as you say in English. It's easier to convince to try it. On an activation where you're going to spend $200,000 in 2 weeks, as opposed to a big brand campaign that's going to cost 25 million in 3 years. So I got an example here from Paris, which is not easy because there are very beautiful photos. So I don't have the photos, but it's something for a company who's building buildings and stadiums and so on. So during the Olympics, we had an idea of a small activation. So we made big photos of the workers with a helmet, but in a position like an athlete. They were beautiful photo, 15 meters high. But we had only 20 of them in the country on the construction sites, you see. And it was so successful that the company has decided that forever, they will celebrate workers like that, So a small idea has changed, it has become the mantra of the company. And I want to insist on that, It's a fact that today, I'm not in this briefing, I don't work anymore, but I know that all the conversations are short-term, so the briefs are short-term. So we should do that, try to see how we can test something. And you never know, maybe a small short-term project can, prove the value of an idea, paving the way for a much bigger transformation in the future.
You mentioned the 10-minute TikTok earlier. I think that's a great example of a short-term activation-based disruption. TikTok is for scrolling. Let's say it well. Okay, I love that. Let's move on to talking a bit about creativity, brand building, and the way that's a pretty big part of our life today.
Yeah.
Anything you want to give us? Anything you want to share with us about that?
It's very easy to say, basic things on creativity, but it's a fact. It's at the core of everything we do, And what could I say? We always try to come with new and fresh ideas, and it's difficult. And Jay Chayat used to say, every minute, good enough is not enough, as you know. But it's difficult to move from good to great, It's really difficult. It was difficult in my time, but it's much more difficult today. Much, much more difficult because we're living in a world, about everything should be done. We are looking for what's done, what's cheap, fast, and good enough, And obviously that doesn't help a lot. It doesn't open a big room for creativity. Having said that, what can I say? What I'm going to say is very obvious, but that's it. At the end of the day, between a client or between an advertiser who wants to be heard and a consumer who doesn't want to listen, really, at the end of the day, I think the best meeting point is still and will remain forever the idea. So that's what I can say about creativity in those difficult times.
You have had the great experience, Jean-Marie, and you've mentioned some of it here today, of working with some of the greatest creatives in our collective.
Litlow and
John Hunt. You've got it.
I've been lucky.
Yeah, good job. In what sense did they think, can disruption fuel our creativity? Again, I think we talk about disruption sometimes as a strategy, a planning thing, but it also does fuel our creativity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With disruption, I like that we never under-leverage a brand. We unleash its potential. We give it more weight, more density, more substance, you know. And great visions lead to great campaigns. Think of it. I'm going to try not to forget one. Think different. Impossible is nothing. The answer company. Don't live there, go there. We are for good. Win from within. You know, all these fantastic ideas. You know, with the exception of Think Different, they all came just after a disruption day. And at the end of the day, you know, the more ambitious the vision is, the higher the probability of an ambitious and beautiful campaign. You know, I saw something this morning. Great vision can last forever, usually 10, but sometimes more than 10 years.
Yeah.
I remember that we wrote, it was a little retrofitting maybe, but we wrote as a vision for Apple in 2000, 2002, I don't know. The tool for the creative minds. That was the vision. And what I've just learned, that you have this new campaign for the Mac called Great Ideas on Mac that celebrates, you know, the fact that the Mac is the birthplace of many great ideas in terms in art, in science, in technology, in everything. So I was so thrilled. You know, I was lucky because I saw that this morning. You know, and it's exactly it's the best proof of what we've been discussing for 25 or 30 minutes. You know, the tool for the creative minds is exactly the core idea of the campaign we have today, 25 years later.
It doesn't quit. It never quits. I
Yeah.
love that. Let me now, I mean, I will probably move maybe to our, I'm just looked at the time. I'm going to take us to our last question. Last question.
Already?
Already.
Yeah.
I know. We've done it. We've done it for an hour, but I want to make sure this one's got a little bit of time. I'm going to channel here maybe some of the skeptics of disruption, because there have been a few. I mean, certainly I've looked after
Absolutely.
LA, global, like you definitely will hear people that no matter what you say, there'll be a little bit of skepticism, a bit of hesitation about disruption.
Yeah.
You know, you and I have talked about modern work, we've talked about work of the past.
Yes.
But I think one of the things I can hear sometimes is that disruption is a bit of a relic of the past. It belongs to a bygone era when creative agencies were really kind of top of the pack. They ruled the roost. Now that is not always the case. We are talking about technology, precision, performance, data, integrated tech stacks. So maybe that's a little bit of me channeling the skeptics for you to really say, you know, it's no longer the case. What would you say to that?
It's a long question and it needs a long answer.
It was a little bit of a long ramble, yeah.
No, but I
it is
need a long
question,
answer. Because, I mean, it's a fact that it looks at many things that we have said, or could have been said in the past, or has been said. And I do understand what you just said. You know, if I were a newcomer to the agency, I would think that maybe I was afraid of that. You know, thinking of that discussion, that it could look as me representing, the agency the way they were 25 years ago, or the industry. And I could understand that. You know, holding companies like Omnicom, they spend billions of dollars to buy data and tech companies. So as a result, we weight much less in Omnicom. Tell you something. Omnicom was created, I think, in 1985. 100% advertising. I became CEO 2000. 2000. The agency, BBDO, DDB, and TBWA, all the advertising agency. 2000. Now, 1/3. Maybe a little less. Now I'm coming to the key point. It's not because we are less important for Omnicom that we are less important for our clients. Not at all. Seriously. And before telling more why I believe we have a very important role to play still today, just two things of context. The first one, as you know, is that when everything is led by data and algorithm, the same analysis bring the same conclusion, the same solutions, and everything's the same. There was a journalist the other day who said the digital marketing world is an ocean of sameness. Okay, that's one. Second, the people who work in these companies, and they are very smart, very strong. It's not a criticism, what I'm going to say, but they have to think very short term, not even. Their job, and that's why they do it very well, is to think now, immediately. Okay? So we have that as a context. And some people believe that we are something in the past. But then I'm going to try to tell you no. Telling you what first? What's our real job? We know what it is. Our job is to build brands. 3 words. We build brands. Then you could ask me, yes, but what does it mean really, in fact, to build brands? And then I'm going to spend a little time because, I guess it's important. It means that because we build the brands in the long term, that, we think long term, not in the quarters, but in years. It means that we put imagination at the core of everything we do, and something kind of obvious. The future of a brand cannot be predicted. It must be imagined. Third, everything is important. Creativity is important. It means that, creativity is very important, as we said. On that, I could discuss 2 hours, but very fast, in the 80s, 90s, companies like P&G, for instance, they didn't believe in creativity. And then there was a wake-up call. In 2005, they went to Cannes and became Advertiser of the Year. So there is maybe the pendulum is a little going back today, but many clients are very convinced, in fact, of the value of creativity. And you know what? Not even the clients, even the big consulting companies. What's it? McKinsey, not a long time ago, said, all things equal, advertisers' best bet is creativity. And as I said 5 minutes ago, in the digital world, all things tend to be equal. So, creativity. Then fourth, what it means to be a brand builder. It means also that we are the best suited for integration.
Right.
Because we don't think vertically, we think horizontally. And that's why I really believe more than any other company, the advertising agency are the best suited or in the best position to be the architects of integration. Brand builders, last point, it means that we believe in disruption, okay? Because it's the ultimate expression of what we want to do, Not only truly or simply doing ads, but building brands. So that's why, to answer your question in one sentence, I would say we might be smaller in numbers, but not in importance, my friend.
I agree with that.
Okay?
So I feel real optimism from you for the future of creative agencies and for ours.
Yeah. So, yes. Well, optimism, provided that we're up to what we want to be, both on the creative side and on disruption. Right. On the creative side, it's easy to talk about creativity, but it's not so easy to deliver. There is a long journey between the words and the acts, And I've been traveling the network, in the collective quite often, and to be honest, between you and me, I'm not sure that everybody understands always what it takes to move from good to great. And it's not easy. So we have to have, first and most important, the creative talent. And by the way, I've been an ECD myself at one moment in my time, so I know how difficult. They have the toughest job in our agency. So, and I respect them more. That's them first. But then you need the total commitment of everybody in the company. The account people, the planners, the strategy, everybody. The management. And really you have to have, could I say, focus, persistence, energy. You know, many people underestimate the energy you need to be really a creative place. And on top of it, you need a little bit of courage. Because when you do something very creative, you just leap in the unknown. So you have to have a little bit of courage. You know, Lee Clow used to say, be brave, you know, so we have to be brave, and well, sometimes you are not brave enough. So that's for creativity. And now, because we are talking about disruption, because that's your last question, I will end on disruption. But I will not come back to everything we said. So I will add 2 more points, if I may. Yes. So yes, disruption is a methodology, but it's also a mindset. You know, we expect from the people in our collective to try to think differently, to try to take steps aside, to try to not settle for what has already been done, whatever the job is, you know. So that's a mindset also. And yes, it's a methodology, but it's also a belief system. You know, you're going to say, what that word belief system? To make it very simple, when you talk about a belief system, you talk about not how you do something, but why you do it. The why and the how. So we've been talking about the how in the last 45 minutes, so 10 seconds on the why. When we were in Rome, in that meeting you've been discussing, you know, Troy asked me to say a word about that. So here's what I say, I remember. It's a little pompous, you said, but you know, I believe that. So I said something like the world has never been more in need of radical solutions. So we have to look for disruptive ideas, disruptive strategies, disruptive innovations, disruptive business models, you know, and contrary to everybody who thinks that disruption is an act of disruption, for us it's an act of creation, very importantly. And then I had to finish. I remember exactly what I said. For each one of us, for the company we are working for, and for the world in general, we need disruption every day and everywhere. So that's a little big, but that's what I believe. You know, Jane, that's what we believe, and that's who we are, I think.
Yeah. I don't want us to ever be anything but every bit of that. And if it's pompous,
Yes.
Who cares?
Absolutely.
Who cares? Oh, I love it. All right, we have run it out, my guy. You and I talked for a little bit. We didn't imagine that we could actually
How long
fill
did it
an
take?
entire hour, and we've done an hour and then some. So
Thank you so much for having that idea.
well done
Thank you
to
so
us.
much.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I know it is always difficult to give up such a large chunk of time, but I'm sure you agree with how I feel about this, which is it was incredibly worth it. I think I speak for all of TBWA when I say we are so grateful for your generosity.
Yes.
We are lucky to be here. You are the reason why we get to be the Disruption Company, to carry that flag every day and to make sure that we are doing the work creatively, strategically, in the way that we lead our accounts, hell, in everything we do, in a way that actually lives up to that banner and that high watermark that you set for us so long ago, and you continue to demonstrate and show us today. So thank you. Thank you.
It's me. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Thanks.
I will also just give a special thank you to the entire GLP team, to Rhonda and Solandile and Armando. There's a team here in Paris as well who has made sure that this has been an absolutely flawless production, so thank you to them. And a big thanks as well to Natalie Grice, who was really helpful in helping us think about what we would talk about today. So good night, good morning, have a good day wherever in the world you are, but thank you for being here. And we'll see you on the next version of Disrupt or Die. And Solandile, Armando, I think I'm going to throw it back to you guys just for a final word, yeah?